Good morning. The Constitution Amendment Subcommittee is hereby called to order. The clerk may open the roll. The clerk may close the roll. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everybody. Bright and early. We have a relatively small docket this morning. We want to try to move as expeditious as possible. We do want to take up HJ 58, which has been requested by the patron to be stricken from the calendar. And this committee operates on motion.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded that HJ 58 be stricken from the calendar. That is a recorded vote. The clerk may open the roll. Thank you. The clerk may close the roll. HJ 58 has been stricken from the docket with a vote of 8-0. Thank you so much. Looking at the patrons that we have in the room, I will call Delegate Garrett for HJ 19.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say that you're not allowed to complain about how early it is when you set the time of the meeting. I was in here and the chair came in and said, man, it's early. I didn't realize you're the chair. So I'm here to talk about HJ 19. I've carried this before a long time ago in a chamber far, far away. And what it would do is allow the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia to succeed him or herself. Now, I want to start out really quickly by reading a list of states where there are no term limits on the governor at all. That is that the Governor Reed or Governor Glass could succeed herself again and again and again. So here we go. Connecticut, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, New Hampshire, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Washington, Wisconsin. That's crazy. I don't want my governor to be able to succeed him or herself again and again and again and again. Now I'm going to read a list of states where the governor can only serve one term. Virginia. I'm done. And so I bet you that a lot of y'all's mamas told you the same thing Ma told me when I was growing up. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't make it right. And she was right. I'm not asking for a state where Governor Wilder could still be in office, because if we had a two-term governor, Governor Wilder would have gotten to succeed himself. Governor Kane would have succeeded himself. Governor Warner would have, had he chosen, succeeded himself. Governor McDonnell would not have. This would not apply, let me be clear, this would not apply to the current governor. It would apply to whoever was subsequent. But there are 37 states where the governor can succeed themselves. There are, hang on, if I get my math right, I believe 16, is my math all messed up? Or no, 12 where the governor can run infinitely, and there's Virginia. So I think what happens is we get an executive, whether Democrat or Republican, they come into office, they have bold ideas upon which they ran, upon which they were elected, that appealed to your constituents and my constituents. They won. And they're a lame duck the day they get here. Now, I get it. As a member of the legislative branch, I think, yeah, I'm going to be around long after this gal's gone or this guy's gone or whatever. It's not why we should do things. We should do things that are right for our constituents. If our constituents ask to be served by Doug Wilder or Mark Warner or Tim Kaine twice, that's not going to upset the balance of power in the Commonwealth. So I could keep waxing poetic on this bill. I just think that this should transcend partisanship, that this is a common sense idea. I think if you put it to a referendum of the voters of Virginia, which we would do as it's a constitutional amendment, that they'd support it. And I think it's time that we look at what the other folks are doing and not go overboard with limitless succession of oneself, but at least allow the voters to have the opportunity to have a chief executive for 2 terms, if they so choose. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, that's all I got. I would certainly yield any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? I see that we have the delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay this on the table.
Before we move to lay it on the table, are there anyone in the audience who has standing in support of the bill? I do think we have some online. Let me see. Mr. Zimmerman. Mrs. Zimmerman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I actually am here for a different HJ 45, but personally, I think this sounds like a good idea, and there's no harm in allowing this opportunity because the voters could decide not to do it. So it doesn't harm the state in any way to allow this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman. Are there anyone here in opposition for the bill? All right, hearing none. Well, I take that back. I'm sorry. Delegate Reed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question for the patron.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order.
Delegate Gilbert.
I certainly want to, does the delegate want to withdraw her motion to lay on the table, which is non-debatable?
That is correct. My apologies. Delegate Anthony.
Do you want to withdraw your motion so that he can ask him a question?
Yes, I'll withdraw my motion.
And I'll withdraw my second. Thank you, Speaker Gilbert, Delegate Gilbert, sorry. So I do have a question for the delegate because I understand the intent upon this, but by most studies that are done, it currently indicates that the Virginia governor is probably either the first or second most powerful governor of all of the 50 governors. So you're stating the information about the number of states that have repeated succession opportunities, those that have 2 terms. But one of the things that I think that you missed is the fact that by most calculations, our governor is the most powerful governor in the United States. And so therefore, I'm curious how you would reconcile having a 2-term, very powerful governor with no other changes to the Constitution that would maintain a checks and balances with the legislative branch.
Mr. Chair, I would ask the delegate to cite one study that says that the Virginia governor is the most powerful governor in the United States, just one. None? You don't have any? Okay. Well, I'll be in the room, in the chamber with you later. I'd like to see one study that says that.
They do exist, and I will share them with you.
Okay.
Any other further questions? The committee operates on motion.
I move to lay it on the table.
Second.
It's been properly seconded and moved to lay the bill on the table. All those in favor? And the clerk may close the roll. The bill has been tabled on the vote to 5-3. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. Y'all have a great day.
Have a good one. The committee will be at ease while we are waiting for Delegate Tran. Is back in order. We have Delegate Hernandez. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. As the delegate in the General Assembly representing Norfolk's 94th District, which is home to the largest naval base in the world, Let me just say how proud I am to carry this bill, HB 558. This legislation calls on us as Virginians to acknowledge the men and women who serve this country in uniform, and in particular, those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service of this country. If this bill passes, and I hope that it does with strong bipartisan support, voters in Virginia will decide on this November ballot whether to amend our Constitution and expand the property tax exemption for surviving spouses of soldiers who were killed in the line of duty. I submit to you that in many ways, this is the very least that we can do for these surviving spouses, and I personally will be doing everything that I can to encourage voters to vote yes on this voter referendum in November. But first, I just humbly ask that this committee support HB 558, and I also want to thank all of the advocates, the families, and the surviving spouses who have gotten us this far. Let's bring this one home. I thank the committee, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none.
Mr. Chair,
Delegate Gilbert?
question for council. I'm embarrassed that I don't know the answer. Why is this an HB and not an HJ?
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Gilbert, the bill being presented is actually the voter referendum, so it is a bill. It sets out the constitutional amendment, but the part that actually will appear on the ballot is set out on lines 45, 46, and 47.
Thank you.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Glass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So question with this is typically with certain benefits like getting the tax exemption or military retirement post the death, and if that service member spouse decides to get remarried, that benefit is typically taken, right? Or depends on the benefit. Is this one of those things that if a spouse has a spouse that is killed in line of duty, and then they go and they decide they restart their life, do they continue receiving the benefit of tax exemption?
That's a good question, Mr. Chair, I would say to the delegate. I don't know if council wants to weigh in on that one.
Delegate Glass, yes. So the way the constitutional provision that we're currently amending reads that exemption does expire if the spouse remarries.
Mr. Chair, I would just further add that another delegate is carrying the actual constitutional provisional change, so we can ask more of those substantive questions. This is really just to get it on the ballot in front of voters in November.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions from the committee, Delegate Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies. I was looking back through the bills last year, and I just did not see where this was passed last year. And so if council could refresh my memory on that one, my apologies.
It went to House Rules last year.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have two people signed up online. Let's see. Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me just answer kind of both the HJ and HR questions real quickly and bring everybody up. We've been working on this for about 8 years. 3 years ago, we passed a voluntary law by county that allowed this to go through. There are 211 surviving spouses combined between those that were killed in active duty and those that died on active duty. And we have two contemporary examples. 2 Navy SEALs went missing in the Gulf of Aden this last week or about a week and a half ago and have been declared dead. Those would be covered in this bill, but currently the spouses would have no benefit if they were in Virginia. The second group would be the 3 that were just killed in the bombing in Jordan. Those already have protection. That combined group of those 2 types of surviving spouses, DOD makes no distinction. They consider them both exactly the same for purposes of survivorship and purposes of benefits. However, Virginia did very carefully craft a protection for those similar to the 3 killed in the bombing, but not for those killed in the other line of duty. Of the 211, about half fit in each category. So this is about 100 people. And most counties have 1 to 5 that fit in the combined set of these 2 bills. So the total number is very small. It adds about 100 people for income tax or for property tax protection. And finally, this is a process that the group that we're trying to protect are a group that has very little benefit. And we have protected 2 subcategories as well. We've already allowed 100% VA disabled protection and surviving spouse of 100% disabled protection. So had these people not been killed, but then had received VA benefits and then subsequently died, they would be eligible for these benefits. So I hope that answers all the questions, and I absolutely am strongly in support of this HR and the subsequent HJ. And we have a widow of one of the people who died in Afghanistan in the circumstances that are not covered, and she can further assist with that, would be Tracy Volke. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Mrs. Volke?
Good morning. My name is Tracy Volke, and I'm the surviving spouse of Major Paul C. Volke, who was killed by an MRAP, which is a mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicle, in 2012 in Mazar-e-Sharif, Afghanistan. He was supporting special forces in a combat zone during Operation Enduring Freedom. Paul earned 3 Bronze Stars, the Combat Infantry Badge, and several other accolades during his 14 years of service. I became a widow at age 37, and Paul and I had 2 young children. They were 6 and 8, and we owned a home in Virginia. I had applied for the Killed in Action property tax exemption under Virginia law in Fairfax County and was granted relief, but then 3 years later sent a notice that I would have to pay back 3 years of property taxes. When Paul was a company commander in 2004, he worked for then Colonel Milley, who became General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he picked me to help advise Army and Joint senior leaders on the benefits. The Army makes no distinction between those that died in the line of duty and those that were killed in action. My family would be immensely benefited by this constitutional amendment. Freedom is not free, and we're all here today because of strong Americans who took the oath to bleed and die for our country, and my family pays the price. Please support this constitutional amendment and help my family and others like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Volke.
Mr. Chair, I also have someone in the audience who would like to speak in support. That's
Certainly.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for hearing me this morning. My name is Susan Depp from Stafford County. My husband was preparing to deploy to Afghanistan with his unit when he died in a line of duty accident, leaving behind a widow and our children aged 12, 10, 7, and 4 at the time. I'm not speaking today to pull on heartstrings, but to shed light on situations such as ours where I do not receive any limited tax relief. I have friends who do, and it's all dependent on if my husband had survived his injuries long enough to be discharged from the military and receive 100% disability from the VA, then I would be receiving this limited tax relief. If he had survived long enough to deploy and be struck by an enemy missile instead of a random accident, I would be receiving tax relief. So it's these gross disparities in the coverage of unmarried surviving spouses that we would like to fix with this amendment. So I request your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Are there any further statements of support from the audience? Are there anyone in opposition? Seeing none. Any further questions from the committee? The committee operates on motion.
Move to report.
Second.
It needs to be referred to finance.
All right, seeing that, I apologize. We do have a letter from the speaker suggesting that requesting the bill go to finance. So
Move to report and refer to finance.
Second.
it's been properly moved and seconded to have the bill reported to finance. Delegate Gilbert?
Are we certain that it's finance?
That's what the letter from the staff says. Yes, sir. All those in favor, the clerk may open the roll. The clerk may close the roll. HB 558 is reported and referred to finance on a vote to 8-0. Congratulations, Delegate Hernandez.
The committee, appreciate it.
All right, our final bill of the day, HJ 45, Delegate Tran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. So HJ 45 would be the constitutional amendment that would then require the implementing legislation from Delegate Hernandez. This is the second reference for this constitutional amendment, and last year it passed through the House and the Senate unanimously. So I hope to be able to gain the same amount of support this year. But as you heard about the previous bill, this constitutional amendment would change those individuals who are eligible for property tax exemption to include those surviving spouses of service members who were killed in action. To include those who died in the line of duty with a line of duty determination from those who were killed in action. So it would be as part of Article 10, Section 6A, and it would just help to fix a gap in terms of the groups of surviving spouses for whom property tax relief is available. I think Virginians have just gone repeatedly to the polls to demonstrate support for surviving spouses, and we want to give an opportunity for this group of surviving spouses to have the same tax relief. We passed several years ago, you may recall, also unanimously, an option for local governments to implement this type of relief, and some have, but we also recognize at that time that it was an interim solution for these surviving spouses, and we want to make sure that just across Virginia there is uniform relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Tran. Are there any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, is there anyone in the audience standing in support of the bill? And it appears we have two online, Ms. Volke and Mr. Zimmerman as well. And I believe we have. I was going to say, I believe we've already heard their statements of support for both of the bill. If you would just like to take a few seconds to just say you support this as well.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, I support this, and I wanted to thank Delegate Tran. She's my delegate, and I came to her with this issue 3 years ago, and she has been just the best support for Virginia surviving spouses. So thank you, Delegate Tran.
Yeah, this is Monty Zimmerman. I'm the vice chair of the Joint Council for Leadership for Veteran Service Organizations. And in my role in that position, I have been carrying this bill. And before I hit that role, I have been working on this issue for several years. So I think this is the 8th year I've been working on this, and I'm very passionate. I'm a retired Army colonel. You can see the picture behind me is me in Afghanistan, and I'm a 100% VA disabled veteran. So I receive the benefit for not dying that these people would receive whose spouse did pass. So thank you so much. Full support.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. All right, turning back to the committee, are there any other questions for the patron? Seeing none, the committee operates on motion.
Move to report.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that HJ 45 reports. The clerk may open the roll. They have a letter on this one. The clerk may close the roll. HJ 45 has been reported on a vote to 8-0. Congratulations, Delegate Tran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you so much. That is the end of our docket today. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment. Again, the committee operates on motion. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the committee stands adjourned. Have a great rest of your day.